aside from having to do media today, how's your day going?
Yeah, I got up unusually early, so because I'm a night owl, and it's never changed ever since I realized it about age of 6.
What's early for you? Early for me is like 9 a.m.
Early for me is like 1 p.m.
Wow, I'm
But today
impressed.
it was, yeah, but I mean I go to bed at like 7 a.m. It's regular, and we arrived from the studio last night from mixing station at like 2:30 in the morning. It's the usual, and it's like our lunchtime. Midnight is my lunchtime, basically.
Wow. Okay. So you have a big European tour coming
Yeah.
up. Does your sleep schedule change when you're on a European tour like that?
No, I mean that's the kind of irony of it. My life on tour on and home doesn't really that differ all that much. I mean, some people think that tour is just some kind of crazy crusade, and you go out there and blow the heads off and blow the minds off, and you're just like in this kind of thing. But it's actually over the years it kind of evened out where elements of tour life became part of my normal life, so-called normal life, and likewise. I mean, it's not like after a while there's a lot of sense of homecoming when you go to places. So it's not really. I've been to Madrid, I've been to Barcelona numerous times, London, and you have friends, you know where to go. It's not like it's like almost like on the opposite. You have to work harder to find new exciting things about these places.
Wow. Well, when I look at your career, and this is intended to be a huge compliment, you are you. It's an original sound. It is not something that you have to change to meet trends. It's chasing charts, nothing like that. You're original all these years later. When did you kind of realize that it was going to be okay just doing art as you and not following trends at all?
Well, I mean, punk rock is kind of all about defying fashion, and it was never not the kind of punk rock that I was into. It was all about fashion defiance and sticking to your own, establishing your own aesthetic.
Hmm.
And I mean, even my mentors, that people that I consider to be mentors, Fugazi or Nick Cave, those are people who clearly have that quality established. They're nowhere near following any kind of trend or fashion. You
Hmm.
always know they're always prolific. They're always busting out some new work, and it's kind of about, what's the word for it? Demiurgical. It's about creating your own world. Dem, de, demiurg. In in Ukrainian, if I remember it correctly. I think it's Latin word. And my uncle is the painter, my father's brother. I mean, he taught me early on. He was kind of big on my babysitting
Hmm.
uh, activities. So, just growing up with a guy who's always wearing like paint colored pants and shirts and, long hair and like, and considered to be kind of, woo by other, by other surrounding people,
Right.
who never cared about like, what's the latest trend. And I had noticed that actually as a kid I already had more interesting for me conversations than like with my peers or with some reading some interviews with some popular musicians. He would say things like, I'd be like, getting into metal and or into hardcore, and I'd tell him like, oh, check this out, and he'd be like, yeah, I can see it. Things are already pretty much reached the limits. And I'd be like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, it doesn't sound so different from like Deep Purple, really. I was like, how so? This is so different from Deep Purple. And he's like, no, I think it's kind of like I mean, it's people playing in unison on guitars,
Right.
drastic riffs. I'm all about it. It's great, but it's kind of Deep Purple in rock, just more updated versions of it. And he loved that. It's like our family classic, Deep Purple in rock. My dad and my father and Mishka, his brother, were really into that, and they kind of really they would draw like a really profound parallels like that. Like, listen, it's like becoming like art kind of get into the same category as sport in a way. Like,
Mhm.
okay, a year, 100 years ago when Olympics, 120 years ago when Olympics started getting becoming like a global thing again. Uh, people were like jumping, like I don't know what it was, like 4 meters long or like 4.5.
Mhm.
Well, now they jump like 6, but it's
Right.
not like 26.
Athletes keep
It's
getting
kind
better.
of like it's kind of dancing around the same accomplishments in a lot of ways and
Yeah.
variations on a theme. So in a lot of ways, music is like that too. It's actually mind blowing to. I mean, thank you. I do take it as a compliment that there's
It's
this.
intended to be a compliment because you mentioned Nick Cave. That explains a
Yeah,
lot to me. I would assume Tom Waits as well, where there are artists who are
of
doing
course.
punk rock things, but the music does not sound like traditional punk rock. It's just they are themselves all these years later.
Yeah, and actually, it's incredibly hard to pull off anything original if you think about it.
Mhm.
It's not. People accuse musicians all the time of being not original enough and all that, but and I'm one of those people. But to be more objective is like it's actually kind of almost impossible to get it into that land. It's like jumping 26 meters when world record is like what, like 7.5 or something like that.
Right.
It's like I don't know.
Well, another thing I'm curious about, or I have a question of, did you see the documentary called Meet Me in the Bathroom, the one about the Strokes and Interpol and all that?
Uh, I know about it. I have not seen it yet, although a lot of my friends are in it, and I was intending to check it out. As a matter of fact, Brian Chase, uh, my friend and a colleague in our new band, Puzzle Panther,
Mhm.
um, the punk rock Lower East Side colleague. Yeah, amazing drummer. I know that he's pretty prominent in that, and I was intending to check it out.
Well, you were around the same scene at the same time as all these bands, and I was curious if you overlapped with the Strokes and Interpol and Yeah, Yeah, Yes.
Actually, I knew Nick Zinner, a really good buddy of mine throughout all these times, even before he was in the AES or before Gogol Bordello. I mean, there were
Mhm.
places where the scene thrived, experimental and experimental music was late 90s. Turn of the Center in New York was still a magical place.
Mhm.
And so there was, I mean, there was a lot of bands that are not in that documentary.
Oh yeah, Long
Ganga
Wave,
Dance, Speedball Baby, Liars,
Long Wave. Can you say Long Wave?
Heroin Sheiks, Heroin Sheiks, I mean, just to name a few, Check, Check, Check.
Yeah.
It like the list goes on. I mean, I think that the documentary is about very particular slice of the cake of that time. And there are other documentaries that are actually have a more like they don't have any Strokes and don't have any Interpol. They have all those other bands like Yeah Yeah Yes and Us and Liars and Check 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 and Sonic Youth. So I mean that's just I think there are several documentaries like this one in particular I mentioned called Kill Your Idols. I think it has more of a I think it has what the names that I named are pretty much all there. Yeah, yeah, and it has like Jim Sclavunos, Lydia Lunch. So it kind of captures like a kind of almost like a passing of the torch kind of moment.
Right.
Not that anybody from the the icons like Thurston Moore and Jim Sclavunos and Lydia Lunch stopped being active in them, but
Right.
not by any means. They're like busting out amazing shit all the time, you know.
Still making
But
great art. Sure.
yeah, but I think it was really interesting in terms of like showing the continuity of New York aesthetic, really being kind of, you know, regurgitated in a good way by the newcomers and transplants like us, who are bringing some new funk to the game, you know, bringing some new vibe and swing into it.
Okay, well, back to you and not that documentary. The big European tour is coming up, but are you allowed to say what's happening for the band in late 2023, early 2024? Are you planning ahead?
Oh, fuck yeah. You know, there's never, we're never, we're a band that's like works like a, yeah, here's a new record and we tour this record and then you don't hear about us for 3 years. It's a different kind of band. It's all kind of work in progress at all times. You know, that's the kind of reality of it. So, you know, the new record came out in the fall. You know, it's a great record. Go grab it, check it out. You just might gonna fucking dig it. And you know, the next record after that started the next day. You know, you know, it's I mean, I think if we like kind of just zoom in for a second on the personalities in Gogol Bordello, you'll see that it's kind of that form of kind of maniacs that, you know, some people kind of just think kind of like, you know, it's a certain form of workaholism for sure, but workaholism in terms of, I mean, we have a great work ethic, so it's like, please let's not stop, you know. Like, you know.
Well, the last question I have for you is, you're on the very short list of artists who worked with Rick Rubin, and Rick Rubin chooses who he works with. He won't, you could give him a briefcase with hundreds of thousands of dollars. If he doesn't like you, he won't work with you. What was it that connected you and Rick in the first place?
Well, wow. I mean, I remember standing backstage in after a show in Los Angeles, and you know, I was like after a show without a shirt, you know, like completely all wrangled up and wet and sweaty and talking to my friends, and suddenly I met Rick Rubin, you know, who came up with his friend, and you know, his friend introduced him, and wow, it was a big moment, you know. I actually was so kind of lost in the moment. I mean, I had like several drinks at that point, you know, that I actually didn't realize it's Rick, you know. It was a dance situation, you know, but I could tell it was a, you know, really a kind of intelligent conversation about, and it was like beyond small talk. Suddenly we were just talking about like, you know, songwriting as what it is, as where is the entity of the song comes from. Like,
Right.
it's like, it's not exactly small talk, you know. And then, you know, I think that, well, apparently, before that, several friends of his, Tom Morello, chiefly, introduced Rick to our music and basically brought him to our show, you know. And so after that, we kind of had a couple more conversations, and the next thing I knew, I was, you know, in Rick's house, kind of showing him a batch of new songs I was writing. And I think it was, I mean, you know, I think that he kind of appreciated that he saw what I always encourage people to see in Gogol Bordello, because people get lost in all kind of, you know, Gogol Bordello is kind of like, it's got a lot of layers in that cake, you know. some people just can never get past its theatrics. Like they just like think that, that's like the driving force of it. It's not. Yeah, it's one of the things. You know, because there's like because you know, for me that was never the driving force. That's just was like actually completely secondary to the. It was like illustrating the songs, you know. But here came a person who had insight straight into the matters, you know, who was like, let's get together and see all these new songs and make a record out of it and amplify the idea and amplify the epicness of these songs. And I think that actually that was the concept of the album. It in my personal vision of like, you know, the our discography, you know, like that album kind of stands out to me as kind of like Fellini like black and white film, you know. If other records might be so colorful and you know, swashbuckling and so, you know, woo, rambunctious, you know, in all kind of ways. And this one, I think, was just more about boiling it down really to these archetypal.
He usually figures out the elements and he focuses on the elements rather than the production.
Yeah, I mean, he subtracts, you know.
Yeah.
You know, people go like, "Oh, I can't wait to see what's he gonna add," and he's like, "No,
yeah, what's he gonna take?"
Yeah, we're gonna take out all the effects and you know, less back vocals and less reverb and kind of strip it down, but strip it down in a more I mean, you know, he kept the Specials was always one of his bands, and he kind of saw a parallel between us and the Specials. And I am also a huge fan of the Specials. That was an easy stomping ground to share. And we actually played with the Specials right about that time several times and had a great accord with the band, you know. So I think those are the things that he found exciting, is that, you know, it was also, I mean, we had a really unbridled energy also, and the band was quite unruly actually. You know, just like on a lot of fronts, you know. Maybe that had to do something with that too, you know.
Well, to recap what I've learned, the European tour is just the start of what's to come from the band. You're proud of the last record. Keep checking the social media to know what's coming soon. And you're still original. You're still you.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I mean, a lot of things going on. And I'm going to be doing punk rock museum tours in the newly opened punk rock museum in Las Vegas. Just opened this weekend. So I signed up to do some, you know, tour guiding, as many other great dudes and dudettes there, you know. I think Roger Miret from Agnostic Front is doing the next weekend. So, you know, I mean, I've been talking my whole life about punk rock, you know, till 6 in the morning. So might as well do the museum for the young ones to hear.
Are you doing the Mob Museum as part of that? That's where my wife and I got married in Vegas. The Mafia Museum.
Oh no, I've never been there.
Please go there. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah, check it out. Well, yeah, Vegas and Mob, that if they would have a museum, I'd have to be there. You know, but yeah, man, we're already cooking the next record. I mean, also producing young bands has been what's really, you know, New York continues to be like a fertile place. You know, if you get an eye for it, you will find all those things that are always here. You know, it's like when I came here in, you know, mid 90s, people were telling me, "Oh, you missed it all. It all happened." I'm like, okay. And then, you know, and then that whole thing, and then like, you know, this whole decades of amazing things happen. So it's the same thing now, you know. The young ones come and take the torch and shape shift it and transform it, and There's a really cool band that we've been taking out on tour with us called Crazy in the Brains, kind of post-punk, artsy, very energetic, great front man, Chris.
Mhm.
Band. And, you know, the new baby here in the cradle is a Puzzled Panther. You know, as I mentioned before, that's the band that, you know, I'm producing the first release and playing with them, you know.
Okay. I look forward to checking that out. I was not aware, but thank you for the many years of great art and looking forward to the next gig in New York.
Hey, man, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Paltrocast.